Oh, the interview. Whenever we think about having an interview, we usually think about what to say. We prep amazing answers and stories, we print up our resume. But in this video, I want to talk about what not to say in your next interview. I have tons of tips on body language interviews and the right questions to ask, but there are 5 things that I hope you will never say in an interview, and we're going to talk about them today. I've done a lot of interviews at Science of People, and I've had some doozies come through my office. So I want to make sure that I use all those as a learning opportunity for you to not ever say these 5 things. Number 1. I don't have any weaknesses. Almost always in an interview, you're going to get some version of the question, what is your biggest weakness? This can be very direct, or even asking, what was your biggest struggle at your last job? Or what do you often struggle with in your job tasks? Never say nothing. Everyone has a weakness. So if you say nothing, your biggest weakness is that you're either too blind to see it or that you're hiding something. The other horrible thing to do is to answer with a fake weakness. So when people say, oh, my biggest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist, that's not a real weakness. Give a real weakness here. And this is actually important not just for your hiring manager, but also for you. If you have something that you genuinely struggle with, and we all do, and you bring this up in an interview, you want to know if that's going to be a buzzkill for your job. You want to know if that weakness is really going to stop you up or make your job more difficult, because you want a job where you're going to thrive. You want a job where your weakness is no big deal. In fact, it can be overcome or you can get help with it. So be really honest with your weakness, because not only will it help them feel like, they're being up for it, they're being upright and honest with me, but also to make sure that that's not going to be a real problem in your actual job. Thing never to say number 2, it's all on my resume. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to someone in a casual conversation and I ask them, so, how long were you at your last job? And they say, oh, well, it's all in my resume. The reason why you don't want to do this is because when you're in an interview, you don't want it to feel like an interview. In fact, the more casual of a conversation that it can be, where you're asking basic back and forth questions, the better it is. If you have a hiring manager who all they're doing is sitting with their clipboard, okay, so it looks like from 2010 to 2013, you were with XYZ company, is that right? Great. From 2013 to 2015, you were at XYZ company. Again, not that you would be at 2 XYZ companies, but going through your resume like that actually makes it for a very lack of rapport building interview. And you also want to make sure that a lot of the times these hiring managers are reading hundreds of resumes. When I'm hiring for a position, I am literally skimming dozens of resumes and then reading hundreds of resumes every day. And if I have multiple interviews in the same day, I can get confused about what was on which resume. So if I ask a question about a job past or a job history or job experience, and someone says, oh, it's all on my resume, not only am I going to forget, it also makes me think, do you not remember? Do you not want to talk about it? Do you feel like you said it better in your resume than you could in person? It's always better to re-explain something on your resume with your own warmth and personality. So if you worked at XYZ company from 2010 to 2013, that's pretty boring on a resume. But if I were to hear you say, oh, I had 3 wonderful years with XYZ company before I had to move out of town, but I loved it. I had a great team and a wonderful boss, and I learned so much about teamwork and team management. So what you did there is you took something that, yes, is on your resume, but you added personality to it. You added to it so that now it's not just a time frame, it's actually an explanation. So never refer to your resume. Always take that opportunity to add a little bit of warmth, add a little bit of personality. Number 3 thing to never say in an interview is, so what's the bonus and raise schedule? Now listen, I know pay is important and you should talk about pay. But asking about a bonus and raise schedule is basically asking, so are you going to reward me all the time, even if I don't show good work? A bonus or raise schedule usually has to do with profits of the company, how good you're doing, how much you're excelling at your job. And so it's hard for a hiring manager to accurately tell you an answer to that question without seeing how awesome you are. Never ask about a bonus or raise schedule because you want to make sure that you're proving how amazing you are at your job, and then you can see if those bonuses or raises come up. A better way to ask that question, if you have to ask that question, is what are ways that I can know that I'm being successful at the company? That's a better question, because then you'll know, okay, if I'm being successful, what happens? Is there a bonus? Is there a raise? Is there some kind of an accolade? Or is it just a pat on the back and a good job? That's a better indicator for you, and you'll get a better answer to know, how does the company celebrate your success? So stay away from that bonus and raise and instead ask, how do I know if I've been successful in this job? Number 4 thing you should never say in an interview is, I really hate my current boss, or I really hated my old boss, or I really hate my company that I work at now. I want to teach you a concept called spontaneous trait transference. This is a really interesting psychological concept that found that when we say something negative about someone else, even if we're being very clear that we're talking about someone else, the other person's brain assigns those negative traits to you. So if I were to say, that person is so lazy, even though you know I'm talking about another person, me just saying the word lazy actually makes you think I think about me as lazy or question my laziness. So if you say, I really hate my current boss, that word hate immediately gets put onto you as being hateful or something wrong with you. Or if you say, my boss was a terrible manager, even though the hiring manager consciously knows you're talking about someone else, that terrible management concept will actually get spontaneously transferred to you. It's a very weird concept, but it's been proven over and over again. This is the reason why I want to make sure you do not say anything negative about anyone in your interview. So I definitely don't want you to lie about it, but if it comes up where they ask, why did you leave your last company? Your best answer is something vague like, it just wasn't a great fit. That way there's no spontaneous trait transference, and most hiring managers will know, something didn't go right, but they're being polite and they're not saying anything awful about them. So saying something vague, I just don't think it was the right fit, or it wasn't great timing for us, or I think that it was important for me to move on from that position. Those are great ways to make sure you're not having any spontaneous trait transference. Okay, number 5 is broad, but that's because it's any question that you could find out in the job description, on Google, or on the company webpage. If someone asks me something about my company that they could easily find out on the About page, or they ask me something that I've answered 1,000,000 times before in my book or in podcasts, I think to myself, have you done any research? So make sure when they say, do you have any questions for me? You don't ask any questions that you could have read on your own. That makes you look underprepared and under-researched. So make sure that if you're going to ask a question in an interview, which I highly recommend, you only ask things that aren't publicly known or aren't in the job description. I have so many more great videos on interviews, body language interviews. I even have a video on how to sound confident on the phone if you're doing phone interviews, as well as you should prepare for the questions I do encourage hiring managers to ask. I filmed an entire video on behavioral interviewing that helps get people's true behavior and motivations. I highly recommend, if you're in the interview process, practice those interview questions, because those are the questions that I recommend to hiring managers, and you never know, they might ask you one in your next interview.
Are you living up to your full potential? Do you want more? I would love to help you. Get started with my free training and learn more about People School today. Visit scienceofpeople.com/pschool.
I hope you liked this video. We worked so hard on it for you. If you liked it, give it a like, add in the comments any tips that you have for your interviews for our other viewers, and be sure to give our channel a subscribe. I have lots more great videos coming.